So I just recorded a video of myself speaking Spanish after 11 months of studying every day on my own. I say 11 months because I don't really count June and July where I was just learning some basic things like here's some cognate tricks, here's on a very basic level how verbs work. Um, and I was going very slow during that time. But in retrospect, what I consider to be the time where I've actually been learning, where I've been like hardcore about it, structured, maintained, it's been from December until now. So um, we're coming up on the date in which I actually started like hardcore studying. And so at that time, it will have been a year since I did that. And in that video, I tried to speak in front of the camera to make much of my passive vocabulary active because I have a lot of passive vocabulary. I have a lot of things that I'm able to say when I really sit down and think about it in order to write. That's how I was able to write my blog posts in Spanish because I had the time to actually just sit there and write and not really have that fear of being judged by anyone or feeling like I have to perform verbally, which is a different skill. Um, but also, something I noticed is that when recording that video, I was much slower and less fluid when speaking than I'm able to when I actually speak to one of my friends. I find that I have much more confidence on call with people, and I end up speaking faster, but I also end up making more mistakes. And so I'm sort of starting to weigh it in my head. What is more important, making more mistakes and speaking faster, or making fewer mistakes but speaking slower because I'm like running through the grammar in my head and trying to pick the best words? I think probably just for the fluid of conversation, speaking faster and making more mistakes is better because in that situation, the conversation can keep going, which is what I've been able to do when I'm actually talking to people. I think when you're talking to people, you have that feedback, you have the things that they're saying, and they give you things to talk about in that moment. And so, because they're giving you things to talk about, you don't really have to consider, okay, where am I going to go next? How am I going to structure this idea? How am I going to follow this thing that I just said? And that's very important, right? Ultimately, if I were to rank what the most difficult things for me to do right now are, I would say, or from easiest to hardest, I would say for sure the easiest is to read, the second easiest is to listen. So watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts and stuff like that, there's a lot of native media I have access to in that format. And then after that, I would say that texting. Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, is texting or writing like essays easier? Because in texting, you have that pressure to kind of come up with something quickly. I guess if I have my time to think about it, I'd say texting. It also depends on the subject, but texting is pretty easy. And then after that, it's writing the essays. And then after that, it's talking with people. And then after that, it is making videos where I'm just talking to myself. Making videos where I'm talking to myself is the hardest thing to do. And it's for the reasons that I mentioned before, that that pressure to kind of follow the thing that you just said with something else leaves you kind of pausing and thinking about what you're saying. Also, the desire to say everything grammatically correct using the appropriate words, what would be natural here. There are a lot of things going on there in your brain. And so I'm left with a kind of stilted, slower type of speech than what I would be able to do if I'm talking with a person, or if I am writing something. But even so, given the time that I've put into this, what is a relatively limited span of time in the grand scheme of things, I think I was able to do pretty well. I think I was able to do pretty well given those facts, given the fact that I've never learned a language before, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep improving on all the things I need to improve on, of which there are many, but um, I feel pretty good about how I'm doing. I did not think I'd be able to do as much as I can now in the time period that I've had. And in the period of time I've been working on this, I really thought that it would take me significantly longer to get to where I am now. Which again, is an area where I have a lot of things I need to improve on. I make many mistakes, but but especially given the amount of stuff I can understand, which was my main goal. Like my main goal was just to be, pretty good at listening and reading, to be able to consume content for native adults, about stuff I'm interested in. I can do that, you know. The whole speaking thing was always kind of a secondary thing to me. It's something I want to be able to do, but I'm kind of like, okay, that'll take its time. I'll be able to do that when I'm able to do that. Well, I've already exceeded my expectations for what I thought I would be able to do in this period of time. And so that is a really good indicator for me. It's a good leading indicator as to where I'm going to go in the next year, continuing to work on this, and where I will ultimately be. As to whether or not I'm fluent, I have no idea what that means. Um, if your definition of fluency is, I can make a video where I'm really comfortable, where I can talk about a lot of things quickly, I'm definitely not there. If your definition of fluency is, I can have conversations with people and talk about any subject, even though I make mistakes, and I have an ample enough vocabulary to do that, okay, yes, I would be fluent. But even so, I'm not sure if I like that definition because, um, it leaves a lot to be desired. It leaves many holes that you need to fill, many things that you need to work on. So, have I reached fluency? Depends on the definition. I don't think so, but it's a process, right? Even in my native language, I'm still improving and learning things about it. And so I am not comfortable saying that I am bilingual until I have, gotten, I've passed that C1 test at least, or ideally a C2, which is what I'm going for, until I really can come onto a video and just speak about anything very, very comfortably, no pauses, no, you know, whatever, no slowdown, just very comfortably talk about anything very quickly. Um, when I'm able to do that, I will say that I am fluent. Um, Honestly, I don't place very much value on the concept of fluency, nor do I really know what it means because everyone seems to have a different definition. Um, if you were to measure me literally just based on my ability to understand YouTube videos, podcasts, and books, okay, I would be fluent because I have a pretty high reading level, for example. But obviously, this concept of fluency extends beyond that. It is measured in terms of your ability to have conversations, which I am better at than making videos, but it's also measured on your ability to, for example, give a presentation, which could be in the form of a video. And in that department, I'm definitely lacking. I need to work in order to improve that. So let's see what comes with the coming year.